Hello and welcome to the first podcast of What is Going On with Marc and Alyssa. So I'm joined by my sister Alyssa, and we are going to tackle social political topics once a month. Is going to host it on my YouTube channel, Enchantment of Eternity. However, this is not considered an Enchantment of Eternity video. I'm just too lazy to make a new channel. So we're not going to talk about Star Trek or sci-fi or movies or television at all. This is just a podcast about current events, political things, and such like that. So first, let me introduce my co-host, Alyssa. Alyssa, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about something more relevant than what we usually talk about. It's fun to talk about Star Trek and things like that, but this is some more important topics and that we haven't really talked a whole lot about in the past, so I'm looking forward to getting into it with you.
Yeah, so the idea I came up with was we do it once a month and we take turns picking a topic. And so I picked the first topic, which is what's going on with the Democrats. So every month it will be a what's going on with sort of thing.
Decided not to do what's the deal with this? That was my idea. I thought we should be what's the deal with this? What's going on with this as well?
Yeah, I did that for my Star Trek 6 live stream.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. What's the deal? What's the deal with the Democrats? Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a while. I mean, there's recent events which we might bring up that just happened this past week for us. That's kind of distracting me at the moment, but this is something I've been wanting to talk about because I've been hearing why did the Democrats lose the 2024 election? Why did Harris lose? And of course, I hear from moderates that are essentially right-wingers who are saying, oh, it's because they were too woke. And there's some like prominent Democrats as well who feed that line that because they were too woke. And I very, very strongly disagree with it. First, I want to open up with, I think there's lots of reasons why they lost, but I think chief among them, the main reason, which I think was the deal breaker, was the fact that the economy was shit, and it's just a knee-jerk reaction to get rid of the people who's in power. And the fact that they ran Biden's VP and she refused to distance herself from Biden, I think made it worse. Alyssa, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, every poll after the election showed that people voted for Trump because they genuinely believed that he would make the economy better, that he would quote unquote lower egg prices, make eggs cheaper. And that was the big talking point that you kept hearing about. But that's what people believed. And I think part of that is, yes, the knee-jerk reaction to just voting against the incumbent whenever the economy is bad. I will also add, though, to me, I think she still could have won despite that if she had run a better campaign. When she first was announced as the candidate, there was a lot of energy around her. There was like almost Obama-like energy around her. She was really surging really fast, and it looked like she was going to have all the momentum going into November. But then she stalled and stuttered because she hired Biden's advisors and she was listening to them and not running away from what Biden was done, but kind of embracing all of that. And even worse, I mean, there's a lot of reasons I'm sure we'll get into, but the Dick Cheney thing was also like embracing that middle of the road, moderate, like Republicrat nonsense that like people are tired of. And when she started off, and then she got Tim Walz in there, and it was almost like she was going to run like Obama, like a fake progressive. of which would have been a smarter strategy. I don't believe for a second she would ever have progressive policies, but neither did Obama. Obama was a very much a moderate Democrat, but he ran on as being a faux progressive and ran on change and hope. And Kamala started that way, but then shifted gears back to the same old, same old. So I would argue she could have still won, even though she was associated with Joe Biden, if she had continued running the kind of campaign she had started off with. I think once she started going back to same old, that and listening to really bad advice from terrible Biden advisors, that I think that's what really did her in.
No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, because it was, regardless of what Trump and these Republican morons try to say, it was not a blowout or a strong mandate or whatever. It was a very close election. Especially you say, oh well, he won all 7 swing states. Yeah, but if you go to each swing state, it was like razor close within those swing states. So yeah, I do agree that she might have fucked it up. I think one of the main issues is that, and it's this concern this tactic that I see some Democrats pulling towards now, which scares me because it's a dumb tactic, this is why they lost, is trying to, and you touched on this already, but trying to appeal to right-wing moderates or moderates in general, which if you look at the voter bloc, there's more people who don't vote than there is people, who are these so-called moderates. So that's who they should try to appeal to, the people who don't normally vote. And most of them, a lot of them are left-leaning, but they see the Democrats as when they pull to the right like that, they are alienated by that, and they don't want to vote for anyone. They'd rather just stay home or vote third party.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just this, I think, delusion that Democrats have, that Kamala had by bringing the Cheneys into it, that they're going to get Republican voters. You're never going to get Republican voters. Like, you are never going to get Republican voters. Um, Maybe some of the really moderate ones who are like practically Democrats anyway. Like, there's this middle that's kind of gray area where you could really go either way. Um, those are more of the kind of center independents that maybe you can get a few of those, but that's not going to tip the scales for you. um, but the hardcore MAGA, or just even diehard Republicans who maybe even aren't biggest fans of Trump, maybe they're not MAGA, but they've all voted Republican their whole life, you're not going to get them. And it's just this illusion that Democrats keep having, that they're going to get those voters, where you're absolutely right. The voter bloc that they should be going for is the left-wing independents, the young people, the people who don't vote because they just don't feel that either party represents them. And they can show you that, to show them that, yeah, we represent you, then they will vote for you in Zurm and not improve that. Like,
Yes.
he proved what you can do when you actually appeal to those voters. And he did actually, I mean, what I said isn't entirely accurate, because he did get some Trump voters and some Republican voters, but not by turning Republican. He did it by actually listening to them and addressing their everyday needs, and what their everyday lives. And you will get some Republicans that way, um, which is essentially being progressive. You will get some of them that way, but not by being more Republican. That's because why vote for? I've been saying this for years and years and years and years. Why vote for Republican light when you can just vote for the actual Republican?
Exactly. I mean, I think they think that there's some never Trumpers, some Republicans who lean more right but hate Trump, but there's not enough of them to win the election. Like, that's not where they should appeal to their base. Their base is definitely bigger than that small little portion of never Trumpers. But oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say absolutely. You're right.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I do agree with you that Kamala could have won had she played it differently. But I think the real death knell for the Democrats, and it doesn't guarantee their loss, but it made it a hell of a lot more likely, was the fact that they didn't have a proper primary in 2024. The fact that the Democratic Party basically scared everyone into compliance of not doing a proper primary just because it's like, oh, that's normal. Usually when we have a president incumbent running, we don't do a primary. This is normal. This is what's normally done. Yeah, and they didn't have a primary, and they discouraged everyone from voting, and that time was like Biden was obviously like not fit to be president, or most people believe that. Whether it's true or not, I think it's true. Like, I remember seeing a meme that had a picture of Joffrey and a picture of that. What's his Viserys from House of Dragon when he was like dying and barely alive, going, and saying that's our choice basically in the U.S. election.
Turns out Trump is kind of both of those things, though.
Yes.
Yeah, and
he's more like he's Mad King Ares. That's
yeah. I mean, everything that they said about Biden was true, and I agree with you 100%. But it's just nuts to me, like how that gets overlooked for Trump right now. That how he's like as bad, if not worse, than Biden was, and nobody cares in the mainstream media. But anyway, that's kind of a side topic. But
I heard it said that it's because they both like sort of have dementia, sort of, but it's because the way they manifest it was different. That Biden was more of he was slower and foggier, where Trump is just more confident and still there. He just says nonsense and doesn't really.
And falls asleep during important meetings.
Well, to be fair, I don't think that happened. I don't think that happened until after he won the election.
Well, I know. I'm talking about after he won the election. I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, definitely.
That Trump gets right now. I hear a lot of people, and in fact, I can't remember who it was. I think someone called Jake Tapper out on this, but Jake Tapper.
Oh yeah, we wrote that book. Yeah,
I can't remember who it was. I think someone actually was in an interview with Jake Tapper and was like, "When are you going to write the Biden book or the
the Trump book?" Yeah,
yeah. It's just crazy how much of a pass Trump gets right now. I'd say right now he is probably worse than Biden was as far as his cognitive level and what the gaffes that he makes and falling asleep during meetings and just all of that and just the media gives him a pass. And they were right to not give Biden a pass. In fact, they didn't give him enough. Like the media, the mainstream media was defending Biden too much at the time.
Yeah. Well, I think that Trump doesn't get a pass that much from like the left wing media.
Yeah, I'm talking about the media.
Yeah, but if you go to like you watch any late night shows like Seth Meyers or Jimmy Kimmel, they constantly make fun of how Trump is constantly falling asleep.
Unfortunately, like that's not where people get their news. A lot of people, it's like CNN and MSNBC, ABC.
MSNBC definitely points this out as well. The whole Trump falling asleep, and maybe even CNN to a smaller degree. But.
Yeah, they don't enough. I mean, again, Jake Tapper wrote a book. When's the book about Trump coming out? They don't do it enough. They really.
Well, also, to be fair, even during this time after the first debate with Biden, it was when it was evident to everyone that he was completely unfit. A lot of the Democratic, even MSNBC as well, were all in denial.
They were. Were.
I think the problem is that had they had an actual primary, even if Kamala Harris won that primary, then that would have like really increased their chances of winning.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people held it against that she was kind of anointed and
Yeah.
didn't actually win the primary. And I honestly think it had been someone else other than her, their chances would have been even better because whoever was a candidate needed to distance himself from Biden.
Yeah.
And this is what I think one of the death nail is. I watched her when she was on The View, Kamala Harris, during her election, and The View, someone there asked, like, what makes you different than Biden? What do you think Biden did wrong? And she said something like, oh, well, I would have Republicans in my cabinet. And I'm like, that's the wrong answer. That is absolutely the wrong answer. And the thing is, and I heard this rumors about this, and I think it would be true, that Biden was kind of like a bit vindictive and like sort of threatening her, not bodily harm or anything like that, but like politically threatening her to not like do anything, say anything foul about him, and that just handcuffed her. Like if it was a new candidate, then they could say, oh yeah, Biden did this, such and this wrong, and I'm totally different.
Yeah. 100%. I will say, yeah, I think the chances would have increased if there was a primary that was won by somebody else. If it was a primary also won by Kamala, I don't see any different result because I think she would have ran the same campaign and lost for all the same reasons. But if they had held a primary and someone else had come out of it, then I think there would have been a chance.
I think that Kamala would have had a better chance if she won the primary, because at the very least she could say, I won the election. Because a lot of people
herself from Biden, though, I think it was probably the same thing.
True. So I don't think she would have as good of a chance as someone else would have, but I think her chances would have been better than what they were.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of people, and even on the left, who would argue, and it was hard for me to argue against this, is how can we say that Trump is destroying democracy and against democracy while the Democratic Party shot down any chance of a primary in 2024? And I know it's not equivalent. I'm not saying it's the same thing. Obviously, Trump's way worse, but still, it is kind of, how can we say, oh, we're the Democracy Party when you did something very anti-democratic?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely not close to the same thing. I mean, Trump basically launched an attack on the Capitol. But I think the talking point is there that people buy into, that, oh, the Democrats are just as bad because they didn't have a held primary, which I still think that not a good talking point. Like, I think it's not even remotely close to the same, not open primary, but it's there now that, like, oh, how can you say that you're the party for democracy when you didn't have a democratic process to come to your nominee? So I see that. I can see that as how people would be convinced by that.
Now, I do agree with you 100% that it was Harris's tactics of not appealing, trying to appeal to having Liz Cheney campaigning with her, trying to appeal to the moderate Republican or whatever, that definitely doomed her. But the thing is that because I've seen some people who say, like, the Democrats and Harris and all them take 100% of the blame for losing. And then I've seen some other people completely blame the voters and saying, well, they're morons for not realizing how dangerous Trump was and they underestimated him. I sort of hold blame for both. Maybe not equally, but I still have a lot of anger towards the not even talking about the Trump cult members, but like the regular moderate people who are like, oh, well, Trump is going to bring prices down because he was prices were better in during his first term, even though it had nothing to do with who was president at the time. It had to do with post-COVID, but whatever. They're like, oh, Trump is going to bring prices down, and all these people saying that he's going to destroy democracy and he's going to send troops into cities and that he's going to try to start wars. They're exaggerating. They have Trump derangement syndrome. These people are crazy. They're exaggerating. So I'm I demand an apology from those people, quite frankly, because not only has everything we've been saying come to pass, it's actually worse than what we were saying. So I do hold some anger towards the voter bloc as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I hold anger toward them. I just think that they're fucking morons. I'm sorry, but it's just like we just live in a country full of idiots. Like we have idiots who follow Trump as a cult, and then other idiots who couldn't see the obvious. He flat out told you he was going to be a fascist, and you ignored it. So I wouldn't say anger. It's just more like a lack of respect for those people, and then you start hearing more and more of them coming out and being like, "Oh no, he fooled me! No, he didn't!" But all this like Trump voter regret. I mean, I'm sure you saw Steve Shives had a series of videos with the Trump.
Oh yes,
the Trump voter regret line. And that's a real. I mean, not that line is a real thing, but that's a real thing. This Trump voter regret, and I just have no sympathy for those people whatsoever. So I wouldn't call it anger per se, but more of a lack of sympathy and just like a lack of respect for how could you be so blind and how could you be so stupid. That's kind of more my take on it.
And yeah, I do welcome though people who realize that they were wrong and that they were fooled or whatever, and I was like, okay, so good, at least you're on the right side now. But I'm like, don't forgive them because they should have listened to us in the first place when we were warning them. And you get to a major point. One thing that I still hear to this day, which bothers the hell out of me, whenever Trump, because you mentioned Trump said he was going to be a fascist and people ignored it. But the thing is that you hear people say, oh, that's just him blustering. That's just him spitting out hot air. Don't take him so seriously. He's just trolling you. And I have many issues with that. First issue, even if what you said was true, then why the fuck would you want a president who just says things to troll people? And secondly, he's not just trolling you. As we know, a lot of the things, like they said that about bombing Venezuela, oh, he's just trolling you, he's not going to do it. Or they said that about, sending in troops to cities. Is like, oh, yeah, he says things, but he doesn't really mean. I'm sick of hearing that because he doesn't just say things. He means what he says. And this is why I'm sick. I hear some people even today being like, oh, he says he's going to invade Greenland, but he's never going to do it. Like, why do you keep underestimating? Why do you keep giving him the benefit of the doubt? Don't put it past him. He's fucking crazy. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it was just painfully obvious to anyone who was paying attention. So, I mean, you talk about, like, they weren't listening to us, but they weren't listening to him. They weren't taking him seriously, like you're saying. They're just like, oh, well, he doesn't mean it, which was obviously not the case. Like, I mean, it just astounds me how easily people just forgot about January 6th and brushed that aside. Like, what do you mean he's not going to do it? He already has. He already has taken extreme action. He riled up a bunch of people to go attack the Capitol based on just complete lies that were overturned in 60 court cases. And he already did that. And yes, I know the cult is not going to, but I'm not talking about the cult. I'm talking about these people that we've been talking about who should have known better, that didn't. That just like, oh, Trump is full of hot air and all of this stuff. But we already saw what he did on January 6th. And why are we just forgetting about that? And I see this meme I still see popping up on social media every once in a while that has a picture of January 6th and says, I still to this day will never understand why this wasn't the end of it. Like,
100%. And this is why the Daily Show, I usually like it. I usually like Jon Stewart, and I usually think they make a lot of good points. But every once in a while, they'll say something that's like both sides that kind of piss, especially Jon Stewart particularly, that will piss me off. And I remember them having a segment during the election, I think while Biden was still running, and they were making it off as, oh, the Democrats are trying to arrest Trump, but they want to throw him in jail rather than beat him in the polls. They should want to beat him in the polls, and they made some jokes about how the Democrats are just were too afraid to face him in the thing of ideas. But that pissed me off so much, because the thing is, what Trump did with January 6th and the fake elector scheme and everything else should disqualify him from being president. Like, I don't give a shit if the Democrats lost an election. They could lose to some other Republican. Yeah, it would suck, but at least, that should be disqualifying for anybody. And we need to set that precedent going forward, hopefully. And I think it damaged, like, apparently Brazil did the same thing. They had someone try to steal an election, and they threw him in jail. And I was like, and yeah, it's just, that should have been at the very least, even if they didn't throw him in jail, that should have at the very least been disqualifying from him running again. I think there needs to be amendments to the Constitution to prevent that from happening again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big reason why that wasn't disqualifying is because you had, I don't recall the Daily Show doing that specifically, but I believe you. But just in general, a lot of the mainstream media was putting that out there. Like, they were not presenting it as, no, who in the mainstream media? I didn't see Jake Tapper or whoever going out there and be like, why are we letting Trump run? Like, he should be disqualified. I didn't see that in the mainstream media. They were all normalizing it, which they continue to do to this day, where they're normalizing Trump's behavior and trying to behave as if he is a normal president, which he absolutely is not, and just ignoring all the fascism that is happening right now is driving me crazy. But it started in the election. That they were normalizing him then, and no one in the mainstream media, except for maybe a few outliers who maybe got fired from NBC, but no one was really standing up and saying Trump should be disqualified from running for president. He tried an insurrection. That should automatically disqualify him. Nobody was saying that. They were normalizing him as a regular candidate. And that stuff pisses me off too. But it was beyond the Daily Show. It was like just media in general.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. It's the whole, like, and that's what Trump's own campaign was doing. They were doing sane washing. Like, that's like something J.D. Vance was really good at, especially you see him on the vice president debate. Like, he was sane washing everything that Trump did and making him sound like he's totally reasonable guy. And as soon as Trump gets elected, J.D. Vance immediately switches to being just as crazy and backing all the crazy shit that Trump's did. And that's what I was also going to mention is that because you mentioned the people who didn't listen to Trump and the words that he was saying, but to be fair to them, Trump also lied a lot. He also said that he wouldn't start any wars. His whole thing was like, oh, look at Liz Cheney. They're going to start wars. I'm going to be the president of peace. And now here he is, like, kidnapping presidents of other countries and trying to start a world war and end NATO by threatening Greenland. And not to mention bombing Iran on top of that. So they should feel duped. They should be, because they were lied to. And quite frankly, and gets back to my anger, I think they were stupid to ever believe that in the first place. Because you look at his actual first term, you see that he was for wars.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I had another, there was something else I wanted to talk about along the election lines, if we can move
sure.
on.
Yeah.
Because I also, because we're talking about the different groups of people that are blamed and for the election and all of that stuff for the Democrats' loss. I don't think we've really talked about yet. The thing that really has pissed me off the most is that it's Bernie Sanders' fault. It's the progressives' fault that Kamala Harris lost, and that is a talking point that you will still hear that. Like when Zoran Mandami was running, it's still this anti-socialist, this anti-progressive message that no, we can't vote for that. And hopefully Zoran Mandami winning the mayor of New York could maybe turn the tide a little bit. We'll see, but I just remember speaking of the Daily Show. I remember Stephen A. Smith was on the Daily Show. That guy. I thought he was horrible as a sports commentator, and then he goes and starts talking about politics, and my God, but he did this whole thing like, well, the reason why the Democratic Kamala Harris lost is because of the progressives, and like it's somehow the people who were not running for president at all. Bernie Sanders was not running for president, were the reason why Kamala lost. And I worry that message will carry on into 2026. I think with Zoran Mandami, I'm hopeful that maybe people aren't going to buy it as much. I'm hoping that there'll be enough like young, energized. There's a couple out there already, like young, energizing Democratic candidates for Congress who can primary out the old guard, and we can start getting more energy into the Democratic Party. But I worry that message is still out there that we have to be middle of the road to win. And that's how fascism has come to America, and that's how fascism will continue to be in America if the opposition party is too weak. So if you are, I'm going to blame the people who are actually fighting against fascists for the fascists winning. Then if that's going to continue onward, then we're going to be in big trouble in the future. So I have a little bit of fear around that. I'm trying to be hopeful that will turn around. But like hearing that message after the election and still hearing that kind of message put out there that, oh no, we have to be in the center. We can't go too left. It's Bernie Sanders' fault that Kamala Harris lost. Like that's, I worry about that.
Yeah, and I hear that sentiment from like everyday people as well. Like I was seeing this debate between like boomer Democrats and Gen Z Democrats, and some of the boomers are like, look, if we move too far to the left, we're going to alienate all the moderates, and we need to be more reasonable, more center of the road. And to this, I like what Kyle Kaczynski says. He says that like Bernie Sanders' position and stuff like that is the true moderates. Like that's truly the middle of the road, wanting Medicare for all and reasonable pay and affordability. That's actually something that everyone wants, and I think, and I've heard like a friend of mine even said that, like, oh, Bernie Sanders would have never won. He's a socialist, but the thing, and that's that mentality we need to get away from, because I think it's been proving that that's not the case, because there was actually tons of Bernie supporters in 2016 who ended up voting for Trump in 2020 and 2024.
Or at the very least, Bernie, like voting for third party or voting for writing. Yeah, I know. Voting party. Yeah.
But there was a lot who even went to Trump. They call it the Bernie to Trump pipeline, and that's because they felt to them it wasn't about right or left. And I think the news and a lot of people get stuck on this right versus left thing, where for many people it's the establishment politicians, the normal everyday slimy politicians, versus someone who's sort of outside that corrupt system. And so Trump painted himself as someone outside that corrupt system, so they moved from Bernie to him, even though they were completely fooled because Trump was even more corrupt than that corrupt system. So they were kind of dumb, but it happened. There was a lot of people who moved from Bernie to Trump. So, and I'm still like of the mind that had the Democrats not purposely sabotaged Bernie Sanders in 2016, and they definitely did. Like, there was talk that if Bernie had won the primary, they would have done something at the convention to like overthrow him anyway. Had they not done that, then Trump never would have been president. If Bernie was actually the candidate in 2016, Trump would have never won, because the reason why he won against Hillary is because she has a reputation, earned or not, of being corrupt. And those stereotypical politicians, people are just sick of that. And so Trump would not have that advantage against Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that and that goes back to 2016, but here we are 10 years later, and there's still people who are buying into this. And it's been proven so wrong. And Zoran Mandani, again, like living proof that is absolutely wrong. That we need to go more to the center or appeal to the moderates. And and I like how you put it, that for a lot of people, it's not like right versus left. It's just who's the person who is outside the system, who's the person who is going to change the system, who's the person who's going to take care of me and my everyday needs. That's what it's all about. And the media needs to really get away from the horse race and this right versus left thing, Republican versus Democrats thing, because for a lot of people, they don't even see it that way. They're looking at the candidate. And Mandami also got a lot of people who voted for Trump in 2024.
Yes.
So it's people who are looking for the candidate that's going to be different than all the corrupt politicians that they're used to, who's going to be different, who's going to make that change. And Trump convinced people that that's what he was, and that's why he won twice, and nearly in 2020 as well. So yeah, that we just really need to get away from that.
You're definitely right that the voices are still around. Particularly, I hear from, can't remember their names, but these moderate Democrat strategists who'd be like, "Oh, it's because of the woke is why we lost. We need to be more centrist." But the thing is, I think there is a decided change now, especially after seeing what Trump did and what he's doing now currently. I think a lot of people have changed their minds and are more likely to vote for a leftist candidate and more likely to move away from the center. I think those voices calling for us to be more centrist are diminishing. They're getting drowned out. And I can see this in MS Now, I guess they're calling it MS Now. Because a lot of those hosts have changed. They're more in, like, Joy Reid, even though she got fired from there. She's not there anymore. But even she, apparently, I wasn't, in the country in 2016, but from what I heard, she was very anti-Bernie Sanders, like viciously attacking him. And now she's like, I saw an interview with her. She was like, "Yeah, I was wrong. Bernie should have won." And it's like a lot of people who are these mainstream are now changing their minds and saying that, no, actually, we need to stop going to the center. It's like this saying that my dad always reminds me of is that insanity is trying the same thing and expecting different results.
Yeah. And I think there is also going to need to be a fundamental change in the Democratic leadership, not only with the politicians in office, but in the DNC. The guy, I can't remember his name, but there was the guy who got kicked out of the DNC.
David Hogg.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The DNC is still very much pushing those people under the table, trying to get rid of them. So the people are going to have to really speak out loud. So I'm really anxiously excited for the 2026. primaries more than just the elections in November are one thing, but if we just have a bunch of Democrats who are the same old taking back Congress, we're going to get the same old, and we're not going to effectively fight against fascism. We're going to need more, and I'm sure a lot of the same old will still get in there, but we're going to need more Democrats being primaried out, the old guard being primaried out by people who are listening to the people. You can put the word leftist on them, but I want to put that aside and say the candidates who are actually fighting for what the people want and who are fighting against fascism. Those are the people who need to be in office. You can call them leftist, you can call them socialism if you want. That's putting labels on them, but I don't care what the labels are. Those are the people that need to be in the office, and a lot of the current guard of the Democratic Party are not doing that. If when you have a weak opposition party, that's how you get fascism. And even if we did defeat Trump, if we continue to have a weak opposition party, fascism will come back stronger than ever, maybe with somebody who's smarter than Trump and who is not cognitively declining. So what we really need is a stronger opposition party, and that starts with the primaries. And then hopefully we can eventually expand to where we just take over the DNC.
Yeah, no, I'm also highly anticipating the primaries. I think that would be the most important thing, and David Hogg is still very active, which is good. He's just got kicked out of the DNC, and they're trying to say, "Oh, this had nothing to do with his bullshit." Nobody's buying that, and so yeah, it's. I do hope that the primaries would be very important, but looking at the trends, not just Zoran, but just all these other trends I see with Kat Apples-Guzali, or however you pronounce her name, and Graham Plattner, people like that. And I love that Graham Plattner survived this scandal, that the moderate Democrats tried to be like, oh, he's got a Nazi tattoo or some bullshit, and then a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't care. I still prefer his stuff. And it wasn't a Nazi.
It wasn't, no.
And they saw through scandals like
and
this.
And he also had, he got it removed from his body, too.
Yes.
Once he was like, oh, I didn't know what it was. So, it was just a non-scandal.
Yeah. I think there was something else in this. I can't remember, but but stuff like that has me very hopeful that we are going to get more, as you say, I guess I'll just use the word leftist, but more anti-establishment, I guess is the way.
Yeah, anti-establishment word.
Yeah, and then when Bernie Sanders and AOC were doing their Fight Oligarchy tour, when they went to red states, they were like, look, if you think you can't win as a Democrat, run as an independent. And I think in those red states, those anti-establishment independents will be more likely to win because the Democratic name is so tarnished in those states. And so I'm hoping a lot of them win. Yeah. And then caucus with the Democrats. But I'm actually because of, I think right now Trump just has his cult members. He just has the people brainwashed by Fox and all those other OEN and Newsmax and stuff like that, which unfortunately is a lot of people, but I think it's 30% of voters. And so I think most of the moderates are already realized that they were lied to, and he's way more crazy, or in some places he was telling the truth when they thought he wasn't, that he's way crazier and he's not what they voted for at all. So I think that the Democrats should fucking kill it in the primaries, and if they don't, then I'm leaving the country, because that shows that the elections were rigged.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt, I really don't, that the Democrats will take back the House. But again, it's what Democrats, who's going to be in there, and how much are they going to be fighting? Because we can, Yeah, you're right. There's like Trump is left just as cultist now. Everyone else has turned against him. Great. Let's elect a bunch of do nothing moderate Democrats, and we're going to end up right back here in the same place again.
Yes,
And as I said,
100.
next time it could be a fascist who's not in cognitive decline, who knows what he's doing, who's going to be much smarter about being a fascist, and we're going to be really fucked. So we can't just keep complete just stuck in the same loop. There needs to be a complete and just complete change and a rebuilding of the system. Like this, if we come out of this with democratic socialism returning, because FDR was essentially a democratic socialist. That whole and the Democrats dominated elections for decades after FDR until they started going in the direction that they are now. And so, if we can get the party, if we can rebuild that party, and if with a new identity and democratic socialism comes back, then all of this stuff we're going through now, I don't want to say that it was worth it, but something good could come out of it if that happens. But if we end up back with, okay, great, we have a Democratic majority in Congress, but they're going to sit on their hands and do nothing. I saw an article that came up in my feed from USA Today, and to be fair, I did not actually read the article to see what their argument was, but the headline was the Democrats. If the Democrats take back Congress, they should avoid impeaching Trump at all costs.
Oh my God.
And I didn't even read to see what the rationale. I read some of the comments and were like, "Yeah, he's right," and I'm like, "No." If that is the kind of that's the kind of Democratic Party we get in control of Congress, who want to take the Chuck Schumer approach of, "Oh, we'll just sit here and do nothing and allow the Republicans will shoot themselves in the foot, and we'll just win because we're not fascists." If that is the Democratic Party we get taking over Congress, then we're fucked. So it's not enough for the Democrats to take back the House. We need more fighters. I mean, I don't have any delusions that the majority would be those leftist, socialist fighters, but we need a hell of a lot more of them than we have now.
Yes. I'm hopeful that we will get more. Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to be stuck with Chuck Schumer until 2028, though.
Yeah, probably.
And they really should kick him out. Like, so he's super unpopular too. Like,
yeah,
most of the fan base. Most of the voter bloc of Democrats have moved way further to the left, if you want to say, or more anti-establishment, more anti-billionaire than the politicians are. Yeah. So that's why I feel like it's each election it's going to change because they're not going to keep voting for these establishment Democrats as much, and that they're slowly going to get pushed out. But as you say, like, it needs to happen faster in order for us to not fall into complete fascism. But I'm hopeful that they will, move away from this sort of thing. But I think that particularly with the president, like, if a Democrat becomes president in 2028, we can't have someone like Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg. This is why I get really pissed off when I hear those Democrats, "Oh, Gavin Newsom, the next president," and even like the moderates being like, "Oh, you gotta have someone like Gavin Newsom. If you have someone to the left, then we'll lose," or some of that bullshit. Like, no, if we have like someone like Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, then we're gonna have what you're talking about, worse than Trump. Another fascist come up who's, in order to prevent it, we need to do more. We need to impeach, not just impeach anyone. I've heard about arresting and charging people like Stephen Miller and stuff, and Pam Bondi and stuff like that for all the law breaking that they're doing. We need a decisive president who is not going to be like Obama, because Obama should have charged, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney with war crimes. So he's like, no, we'll leave it in the past and look that. We need to
over, not looking behind us.
Yeah, that bullshit. We need some. Now, I doubt that we're going to get it with Congress so much while Trump is still president, but I think they definitely need to impeach Trump. Like, if Democrats get the House, like, I don't care if he's gonna be convicted in the Senate or not. They need to They need to impeach him. Like, this is what their voter bloc wants them to do.
Yeah. Yeah. When I saw that headline, I was just like, no, that's the opposite of the truth. They need to do every fucking thing they possibly can. I don't care. And a lot of the comments were like, well, he's not going to be convicted in the Senate anyways. I don't care.
Yeah.
You do anything less than every possible thing that you can possibly do to fight against Trump, then you're failing.
And not just impeach Trump, impeach
everybody.
Impeach Stephen Miller, and
every fucking buddy.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, Christy Noem. That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. I did mention 2028, so I did want to touch on it. I don't like getting into this speculation, because all of last year, a lot of things come up in my YouTube feed. A lot of it is from like CNN and MS Now or whatever. But even some of the left leaning, YouTubers will play out videos. Who do I think is going to win in 2028? Who do I think is going to win in 2028? Like, especially I'm talking back in mid 2025. I don't know. It's fucking 2025. Why? And I think back to. We talked about this off air at one point, but I'll say it here. I think back to 2013 when everyone was certain Jeb Bush was the heir apparent to the Republican Party. It was going to be Jeb Bush versus Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton did win. However, no one expected Bernie Sanders to give her as much of a fight as he did. And as you said, he was undermined by the DNC, so he probably should have won. So no one saw that coming, and Jeb Bush was a non-factor. He was just completely. I don't even remember where he finished, but I think he was out of the race early. And then I look as recently to 2022 when there was a big movement for Ron DeSantis is going to be the next thing. And Ron DeSantis is going to overtake Trump, and I never believed that for a second. But there was this big push for that, even as early as 2021. And so you're talking about who you think is going to be president in 2025. It's a complete waste of your time, because I don't fucking know. And I still don't know who the real leader is in the Democratic Party. And I can't remember who was talking about this. Somebody I watched on YouTube. It could have been Kyle Selinsky, could have been somebody else. Somebody was talking about how this is actually healthy for the Democratic Party, that we don't know who the next leader is, because that's good competition. If we just had some heir apparent, then we're just fucked. We need we need for that leader to emerge in the coming years. But it's okay that we don't have that now, because I don't know who that is now. I'm not sure that it's AOC. I would love. I kind of also want AOC to take Chuck Schumer's place for a little bit, and then maybe be president. She's young, so she could be president later. So I'm not sure, but it's okay. Let's let them fight it out, and let's see who emerges. But I will say that the one person that I can guarantee will not be the nominee is Gavin Newsom, and I'm really confident about this because of history. People like him do not do well under the limelight. So his popularity right now is built off of a bunch of tweets. Same with Pete Buttigieg. His popularity is built off of going on Fox News and saying mean things against the Republicans, and that's it. That is all they have. And both of them, if you put any exposure on them at all, are very, very shallow. They have no substance. Gavin Newsom, I've heard described as a shapeshifter. That he goes wherever the wind blows. He says whatever thinks is going to make him popular. He only started doing these mean tweets to Trump when he realized that it would be popular. That's, I have no doubt that Gavin Newsom at any moment could go out and have a beer with Trump, and this, or not a beer, probably like some $5,000 bottle of scotch or something. And oh, look at all those poor people. I have no doubt that that is within his ability. He is only doing what he's doing because he perceived it as being popular. And then once you get on that debate stage in like April or May of 2027, where they first do the first Democratic debate, and there's like 30 Democrats up on the stage, all 29 of those other Democrats are going to be attacking the perceived frontrunner, who will probably still be Gavin Newsom at that point. And you put shine any kind of light on him, and his whole thing's going he's going to crumble. So hear me now, believe me later. Gavin Newsom will not make it to New Hampshire. He won't even make it to the first primary, because he's just going to be completely destroyed because he has no substance. Now, who's going to take his place? Who's going to stand out? I don't know yet, but that's fine. It's okay to not know that yet.
Yeah, I hope you're right. But I don't know. I kind of gave up all trust in Americans not being stupid, even Democrats. What bothers me is that many people online, like I see memes and a lot of those shit, that are treating Gavin Newsom like the heir apparent. Like it's a sure thing. Like it's a shoo-in that he's definitely going to be the candidate in 2028. And yeah, and that pisses me off, and it scares me, quite frankly, because he is absolutely not what we need right now. And so when people talk, I've seen the polls, and they're talking about the front runners. They mention, like, at the top three, I always see is Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, and AOC. And of course, I don't want Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg anywhere near the presidency. So out of those three, I think AOC. I think the pluses with her is that she's media savvy, kind of similar to Zoran, and also like has that sort of swagger that Trump had, and so could win over the young people. But as you said, it's still too early to call it. And I think of like the back when Obama was running against Hillary, like a couple of years prior to that, nobody heard of Obama, and he ended up winning. So I'm totally open to it being someone else like Rokana or Chris Van Hollen, or maybe someone I never even heard of yet who's going to come out of nowhere and take it over. But it needs to be someone who is going to be decisive and drive things further. It can't be a Gavin Newsom, Buttigieg. So yeah, out of those three, I think is AOC, but I'm open to it being someone else as well.
Yeah, so those are the three people we're talking about right now. They've since 2025 and now in January 2026. Hear me now, believe me later. Not one of those three will be the candidate for the Democratic Party. If it were going to be any of them, it would be AOC. But I do have a feeling she may shift over to the Senate and take out Chuck Schumer. I think she's the only one of those three that I think would have a shot. But it's like, again, Jeb Bush, Ron DeSantis. When we're talking about 3 years out, who's the presumptive nominee, like it's almost always wrong. So I do think, because I've been watching Gavin Newsom, and he has no substance. He's a flip-flopper. He's a shapeshifter. And as soon as anyone sees that, even the moderate Democrats, when they start seeing that, they're going to be turned off by that. He's going to have a Michael Bloomberg moment on a debate stage where Michael Bloomberg, remember, he entered the race late, and people were starting to look at him as maybe not the front runner, but somebody who had a chance, and like a lot of media, and like because he was buying the media coverage, like he was getting a lot of attention. He did one debate. Elizabeth Warren decimated him, like just made him look like a fool and destroyed him, and then his campaign was over. Gavin Newsom will have that kind of moment on a debate stage, I promise you. I don't know if it'll be Elizabeth Warren, I don't know if she'll run again, or if it'll be AOC, if she's running, or whoever it will be. But somebody will do that to Gavin Newsom, and his campaign will be over before January of 2028. I promise you. You don't have to. You can hear me now and believe me later. I promise you, because I've seen this before. I've seen this pattern when there is a Democrat like that who is popular based on non-substance. Pete Buttigieg in the past was that way. He's popular on non-substance. Another one I'm a little bit worried about getting in there is Josh Shapiro.
Oh, yes.
Josh Shapiro and Pete Buttigieg both, although I think Pete Buttigieg maybe has moved away from this a little bit, but they have that where their cadence of their speech is just like Obama. Josh Shapiro 100% is like imitating the way Obama talks. And I don't think Pete Buttigieg does as much, but when he was first running, he was definitely like trying to sound like Obama. Anyone who is trying to sound like Obama, you cannot trust, or trying to sound like anyone who they perceive as being popular, you cannot trust. So I do worry about candidates like that, but I don't. I think of those three, I think Josh Shapiro would probably have the best shot at fooling people because he's more of an unknown. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg though.
No, I do. I hope you're right, and I do think that is a strong possibility as well. Because the voter bloc, the Democratic voter bloc, by all the polls and everything I'm seeing, because of the extreme fascism that we're experiencing right now, that they have pulled, I guess you could say, pull more to the left, or more anti-establishment, or more just anti-billionaire, more anti-corruption, and as I was talking about, like people in the past who were like very anti-Bernie are now pro-Bernie. So I think that if Bernie Sanders was not too old, he would win easily. As unfortunately he's like 83. He himself says he doesn't think he'll run again, and so yeah, and I don't think he could win being this old because we're kind of sick of old people. But if it wasn't the case, I think he would easily win. So I think if we find another, even if it's AOC or maybe someone else who's still, I'm thinking AOC just because she went on that Fight Oligarchy tour with him.
Yeah.
But even if it's not her, even someone else that still brings that same energy that he's bringing about, let's have Medicare for all, let's have $20 minimum wage, all this stuff that's like super popular. Like if someone goes out there and does that, then I think they'll have a better chance in the Democratic, not just the primary, but also the general as well. I think people overall are just, so I think Gavin Newsom or Buttigieg they could lose the general. Like it's the exact opposite of what these freaking moderates are saying. Like those are who could lose the general because people are sick of those normal, slimy, everyday, corrupt politicians.
I think. Oh,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say the only chance that a like middle of the road moderate Democrat would have would be to pull an Obama and just kind of be someone who is not a known quantity, who's not known to be a moderate, and come out and talk like a progressive, talk about hope and change. And put that message out there. And I mean, Obama fooled people very much the same way that Trump did. I mean, he's obviously not the same as Trump. He was more of a centrist moderate, but he definitely he cosplayed as a progressive when he was running and talking about hope and change and things are going to be different and all this stuff. So I think if another moderate Democrat were to come out and do that, and they're not known as being a moderate because Obama was, as you mentioned before, fairly unknown at the time, then they can pull it off. I think that would be the only way. But otherwise, if it's a centrist Democrat, then we're fucked.
And the one thing that pisses me off, and I think it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I go on some of these websites and they're talking about AOC for president, and then there's a lot of comments saying, no, we can't have a woman be the Democrat because our country's sexist. We should have learned for each time we run a woman, they lose because the country's sexist. And yeah, I see that as I disagree with that 100%. I'm not to say the country is not sexist. There's definitely a lot of sexist voters out there, but that's disregarding all of the other reasons why Clinton and Harris lost. And also, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say, oh, we can't run a woman, then we're never going to have a woman president. I think a woman president can win. And I think Harris almost won. It's just that those candidates had other issues that you're ignoring. If you run the right woman, the correct one, then I think she could easily win. So I hate people who would like dismiss and it frustrates me that there will be people in the primary who will purposely not vote for a woman because they think that. It angers me, and it's like, because yeah, it's ignoring all the reasons why Hillary Clinton lost. Like, she had so much baggage because of the Clinton name, whether earned or unearned. A lot of people saw her super corrupt, and she purposely, like, worse than Harris, like, alienated the left wing at her own base. She like was right out spitting in their face, and didn't make, even when Bernie Sanders almost beat her, she made no concessions to that side, which I will give Grant Biden that, even though most of the stuff he said, like, oh, he tried the progressive things, he didn't really try it and gave up on it immediately, but he did do some progressive things. But more importantly, he recognized that the Bernie Sanders wing was important, something that you would have to try to win, and I think that's one of the main reasons why he won. And Harris, to her credit, was doing that a little bit with, having Tim Walz as her vice president, but then, of course, was walking away from that because of bad advice. But the main reason why she lost is the stuff we've already talked about being too late and not distancing herself from Biden and stuff like that. So I think, so it pisses me off when I hear people say, I'm not going to vote for AOC because she's a woman.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Because, like, oh, well, the other voters aren't going to vote for a woman, so so I'm not going to vote for her because she's a woman. No, actually, turns out you are not voting for her because she's a woman. No, I absolutely agree. If it is a woman like AOC who comes out fighting for the people, fighting against fascism, she will win. Yes, America is a sexist country. There's no doubt about that. But the right woman could absolutely win.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to talk about, getting back to the election and why Harris lost, is I remember watching Piers Morgan, who, I don't know why I keep watching him. He pisses me off. But he's like a self-professed moderate, but he's totally not. He's totally a Trump supporter. He grades Trump on the curve. He's definitely like in it for Trump, but he denies it. But anyway, he had Kyle Kalinske on once, and he was asking like his panel like why they thought Harris lost, and he was like, "Oh, she lost because she was too woke and she was leaning too much into transgenderism and all this woke ideology bullshit, and that's what people are against." And then Kyle was pointing out, "It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, she purposely avoided those topics like the plague. She purposely didn't touch anything like that." And moreover, like, I saw Piers Morgan did like the Jubilee Surrounded thing recently, where he was saying, saying Harris lost because of the transgender issue. And then someone pointed out, like, there was an exit poll that ranked 22 issues on why people voted the way they did or why they didn't vote for Harris, and the transgender rights was number 22 on the list of 22 issues. It's at the bottom. It had nothing to do with it, or so-called wokeism had nothing to do with it. It was all about the stuff about they think that Trump would bring prices down. One of the most important polls that I saw was one done right after the election that asked people who voted for Biden in 2020 but voted who didn't vote for Harris in 2024, either voted for Trump or a third party, asked them why they didn't vote for the Democrats this time, and all the issues out there, like the economy was high up there, but I think Gaza was number one. That was top of the list. Not being woke, it's the fact that she didn't distance herself from Biden's policy on Gaza. A lot of people said that they couldn't bring themselves to vote for someone who was the vice president of someone who supported genocide, who armed and funded a genocide. And I can actually see that point of view, although I think, again, that's stupid because Trump is actually going to be 10 times worse. I mean, the fact that Netanyahu wanted Trump to be president should be enough for those Gaza supporters to vote against him. But still, I can. That was the issue. Stuff like the economy, stuff like Gaza, the whole being woke had nothing to do with anything.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the transgender issue because as a trans woman, I have pretty passionate opinions about this, and it drives me crazy, this talking point that Kamala lost because she was too pro-transgender, because first of all, she wasn't, but secondly, every other election that there's ever been, aside from that one, the candidate who pours in billions of dollars into anti-trans ad loses. In 2022, there are multiple congressional races where the Republican candidate poured in all this money into anti-trans ads and lost in almost every single race. And then there was the Kentucky governor's race where Andy Beshear was going for re-election, and his opponent was badgering him with anti-trans ads. Because Andy Beshear, to his credit, is a very pro-trans politician, and I appreciate that about him. And his opponent in that election was just pouring in millions of dollars to anti-trans ads, and Andy Beshear won by more points in the second time around than he did the first time around. You look at the 2025 elections in Virginia, the Republican candidate, again, millions of dollars into anti-trans ads, lost bigger than the poll said that she was going to lose. And there was I think I want to say it was in Oklahoma, like a mayor's race or something like that last year, where the Republican candidate was just all they were talking about was trans people in bathrooms, and then there was a meme, like an ad put out there by the other candidate showing that candidate like under a bathroom stall, like I was looking at you, and like. I can't remember the tagline. It was something like, this candidate cares about bathrooms, or no, this candidate cares about potties. We care about potholes, and like showed like that they're wanting to fill the potholes, and like they actually care about real issues. That candidate got crushed. So every single race in the entire country over the last 6 years, other than Trump, the candidate who put out all the anti-trans ads got destroyed. But people want to focus on that one race and ignore the fact that, as you said, the transgender issue is like number 22 out of 22. Ignore the fact that every poll says that either it was Gaza for those who, as you said, voted for Biden last time and switched, but for general Trump voters, it was the economy. It was the egg prices. Transgender issue weren't even anywhere on the list. So then you have a lot of Democrats who are like, oh, thank God I don't have to pretend to be for transgender people anymore. I can be my true self. I just hate transgender people. And then you have others who misread that, like my buddy Gavin Newsom, who had this podcast where he invited on Charlie Kirk before his death, and he invited on Steve Bannon, and sat there and allowed them to trash trans people and nodded his head and said, yeah, because he also as I said, Gavin Newsom is a shapeshifter, and he'll go with whatever's popular, and he's also misreading the room. And any candidate who does that is going to have hell to pay, because they're going to find out the reality soon enough. You had Zoran Mandani make an 8-minute video about the history of trans people in New York City. An 8-minute video pro-trans, and won by a landslide. So I think that people are pretty soon gonna have to figure that out. And if you don't get that message, you're gonna lose.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, 100%. And yeah, you brought up Trump as the one exception of the anti-trans candidate who won, but as we talked about, that's definitely not why he won. Like Piers Morgan, people like that always bring up this ad he put out and they said, "Oh, it was a damning ad." The whole thing was like Trump, Harris is for they, them, and Trump is for you, or whatever. They talk about like that was the deciding ad. That's what won Trump the election. And they still fucking believe that, even though the polls show them the exact opposite. That had nothing to do with that ad.
Well, I like what AOC said after the ad. She said that, or after the election, she said that everyone was focusing on the part Kamala is for they, them. Everyone was focusing on that part of the ad, but the part of the ad they should have been focusing on is Trump is for you. That's what people latched onto. They had this delusion that Trump is for me. Trump is going to lower egg prices. Trump is going to make my life better. They didn't give a fuck about the Kamala for they, them part of that ad. They were focusing on the Trump is for you. And that's what AOC said after the election. And I thought that was 100% accurate.
Yeah, and she asked her, because she had a lot of people who voted for her and voted for Trump, and she asked a lot, in good faith, why did you vote for Trump? And yeah, so she got back why it was. It had to do with the bringing prices down. Essentially, was the number one answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so was there anything else you wanted to talk about in this?
No, I definitely wanted to make sure that we touched on that, the lie, the anti-trans lie, and so I got that out of my system. So I don't think there was anything else that I really wanted to get into.
Yeah, it's sad though, because the Republicans always pick a marginalized group to pick on, and has as their wedge issue, before in the 2004, how when I almost said Trump, but when Bush won, it was because he was against gay marriage. So back then it was gay marriage. Now they turned it towards trans people, also illegal immigrants as well. But yeah, and I think it's a trend that's going to change.
Yeah. And I was also going to say Bush was also anti-Muslim as well.
Yes, yes.
Very, very Islamophobic, and that's what won a lot of people over. And now it's the races against Latinos is now what got a lot of all the racists come out. But it's the immigrants and then it's trans people.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so yeah, thanks so much for joining us for this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, got something out of it. Leave your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. And yeah, Alyssa, thanks so much for trying this new podcast idea.
Yeah, this was good. I'm glad that that you are decided to do this and invite me along. So yeah, thank you.
So yeah, as I said, we're going to try to do this once a month. So we will be back sometime in February for our next topic. Pick a topic, man. Anyway, so yeah, I guess you could subscribe to Enchantment of Eternity in order to keep up with these. Eventually, I do want to release these as podcasts on Spotify and Amazon Music. So if you're listening to that there, I'm trying to do for that format. I'm going to do its own channel, like separate of anything else. But I want to get some podcasts under the belt before I start that. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Thanks so much for watching, Alyssa. Thanks so much for joining. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.